Welcome to Houston Indie Podcast Society's live stream here in October. It is October 26th, and we have Lita and Raven with us, and we're going to be covering some good questions that first-time podcasters are asking. Carrie, you're here with me. Unfortunately, Ming is not here with us tonight, but that's
I thought you were
okay.
going to say, unfortunately, I wasn't here. I was here.
Oh, yeah. Unfortunately, you're here.
Okay.
Because it is the Jared show, I guess, but not really. Okay, Lita, Raven, how's it going? Thanks for joining us.
It's going great. Thanks for having us. I'm really excited and ready and willing to learn. So
that's always the number one thing is the willingness to learn.
So I know Lita and her husband. I've known her husband, I guess, for years. And we were talking one day, and she was interested in starting a podcast. Like, she started asking me questions, and I was like, well, you know what? This would be a perfect segment for the show, because we could get somebody who's completely fresh, doesn't know, no offense to you guys, knows what they're doing at all.
Nope.
Nothing.
I'm
Basically
purely right now.
And starting from scratch, and what you guys really need to look for, what to look out for, and what to avoid as well.
Yeah, most definitely. We all had to start somewhere.
Yes, please. We need it all.
Well, hopefully we get you in the right direction.
Yeah.
Cool.
So, and also the people that are watching, hopefully we get you in the right direction. And even if you're not necessarily a fresh beginner and you've been doing it for a little while and maybe just have some questions, definitely, put some questions in the comments section and we'll get to them as best we can. So, all right, well, let's go ahead and kind of introduce you guys to podcasting in a sense. Like, what do you know about podcasting? What are the things that you're really trying to discover about podcasting?
Well, I am more of an avid listener than Raven is at the moment. She's got a very busy work-life balance going on, but I work from home, and so I spend a good 9 to 10 hours a day just gobbling up podcasts. And so I've always had some ideas of things that I wanted to talk with her about, that we have really good conversations about things that we just kind of go back and forth. But I thought it would be really fun to kind of open it up and have people experience it with us. My main experience with podcasts is mostly my interest is true crime, but that's not really what we want to talk about, because I think that there's a lot of sensitivity on that. So we want to kind of stay away. We want to keep it light. We want to keep
Was there a murder in your building?
Not in my building.
Okay.
There's a brand new house. It better not have been, other than maybe termites or something. But
Gross.
yeah. But so really the only thing that we really know is that it's usually a person or a couple of people hooked up to mics and cameras sometimes, and they just talk about things that they're interested in. And we just thought that would be a really cool idea.
Okay. Do you guys have a solid idea, or are you looking for ideas currently?
We actually do have, we have a couple of ideas that we're forming into one. Do we tell you what it is, or?
You can if you want to. You don't have to.
We're not going to steal it.
Yeah. Okay. So the main goal of our idea is to discuss things that we're fans of. So it's going to be kind of a little bit all encompassing. It's probably a really hefty thing to tackle, but each episode we want to talk about a new thing that we're a fan of. So for instance, I'm a big fan of a series of books called The Incarnations of Immortality. And not a lot of people know about it because it's, kind of offbeat fantasy sci-fi. And I've read it probably 50 times. And so I have a lot to say about it, and I have a lot to discuss about it. So I want to talk about some books, and we want to talk about movies that we're interested in, movie series.
Like behind the scenes, and
Yeah.
you didn't know the backstory behind blank.
Yeah, just like we'll throw some fun facts in there. It'll definitely require some research because sometimes we have some things that we're interested in that maybe we don't really understand why we're interested in it until we do a little bit more research into it, kind of where we grew up with it and stuff like that. So we're going to be kind of a broad spectrum of things, but each one will be individually centered around a specific thing, like a movie or book or song, a record, something like that.
Okay, interesting. So just a fandom podcast, basically.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
Something
Okay.
fun.
No, I mean, you can hit a lot of niches with that, and that's definitely something that could be interesting.
Yeah, I've never heard of the book series you're talking about, so there's
Let's
I'm
go.
sure other fans out there, so
On it.
it's an
Yeah.
interesting topic, yeah.
Yeah, most definitely. Okay, so I mean, we have such a limited time. Let's go ahead and get into some of your questions. What are some of the questions that you have for us? How can we help you?
Okay, so I'm going to dive into kind of the structure of it. So first off, of course, how do we get started equipment wise? What do we need for that? Is there anything specific that maybe you wish you had started with when you first got started and it was a little bit more clunky from the beginning, or like how do we set up our room?
There are a lot of different ways that you can start with equipment. I mean, is there one best way to do it? Professionally is the best way, obviously, but nobody has the budget when you're first starting out to do a professional setup. So you don't necessarily have to worry about the soundboards. You don't have to worry about, I don't know. There's so many things that you don't necessarily have to worry about. But the things that you do need to worry about, you need microphones, obviously. Headphones are a big one. And some people don't necessarily like to use headphones, but I think you're doing yourself a disservice because if anything starts happening to your audio, you're not going to hear it.
That's right.
So you're doing yourself a disservice because you're going to spend a lot more time re-recording stuff.
Oh no.
So that's one thing that you want to
that's the
avoid.
one thing you don't want to do.
Yeah.
They're starting out. There are a lot of like Rode and different companies make podcast starter kits, which will come with maybe not the best mic on the market, but it's something that's going to get you started. And I think some of them even have mixers that you can get. There's different packages you can get, like a 2 XLR mixer, or I guess they're all USB now, right?
Yeah.
And just plug that into you're going to need a good computer, something that's not going to die on you as you're recording.
Yeah.
You want to make sure you don't really have a loud fan with your computer. You don't want a 20-year-old computer running your audio. You want something that's pretty new, something sleek and quiet that's going to be able to handle everything. A lot of hard drive space. Make sure you have enough space to record everything. Worst thing ever is recording a podcast and run out of space.
Yeah. So I'm glad you're bringing up this because I am in the boat of you don't necessarily need a computer to record. You can get a field recorder and you can use
do
a
that, for sure.
SD card and just plug it in. Those field recorders are going to have XLR channels that you can plug directly into. Yeah, so you can use those. They're typically a little bit more expensive. Not everybody's going to have the budget for that. So if you can find a used one, then you can get those relatively inexpensive. H4,
H5, H6, H4N.
those are great.
I have one. I have an H6, and I use it definitely when I'm mobile. So if I'm in a convention or somewhere where you don't have the luxury of lugging a bunch of equipment with you, just plug the mic straight into there, and you're good to go. And normally they come with 4 XLR inputs, but there's actually adapters you can buy that would actually give you more. So you could actually have a good roundtable discussion with just one little device, and it sounds great.
Yeah.
That's good to know because we actually had an idea for further down the road doing kind of like a Billy on the Street thing where we kind of, flash mob somebody and say, real quick, what's your top 5 favorite movies or something like that, like at a World of Beer or something like that. And that's really helpful to know that we can be mobile and we don't have to just be attached to.
Yeah.
Cool.
And that's the great thing about the field recorder is that it is very mobile. You can pick it up, you can take it. They're usually pretty small, probably, I would say, what would you say, Carrie? Probably about like 3x5, maybe.
Yeah.
Most of them.
Yeah.
So
They're
think
not-
about like
they're
an
not-
index card, carrying that around, something
They're not-
around that size.
They're hefty though, but they're not super cheap. But like what Jared said, yeah, if you can try to find a used one, find an audio store, a Guitar Center, something like that, you can start looking at them now and playing with them a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, Facebook Marketplace, eBay. I mean, just check everywhere and find something that you think you can afford. Whenever it comes to mics, I would not suggest trying to go and afford professional mics to start out. That's not logical. Most people, even if you have the budget, even if you have $1 million to put into your podcast, I would not suggest you start with the best mic that you can get. Most of your listeners aren't going to be able to tell the difference between a decent microphone and a professional microphone. Mostly because you don't have the experience in tweaking those microphones. So you're probably going to get about the same sound out of a little bit less expensive microphone than you are a professional microphone. The one that I use personally, the one that I have here, is the Audio-Technica ATR 2100X. It's a USB-C mic, and it also has an XLR cable. So it's very versatile. There's multiple brands that make something similar. They're in around the $150 to $160 price range. Sometimes you can find used ones on Amazon, and you can get those relatively inexpensive, which, I mean, sometimes I come across some very good prices, like under $70, and I pick one up just because. So I personally have 3 of these mics, and I recommend them all the time to everybody.
I personally, I'm grandfathered a fanboy of the Shure XM58, SM58. I have, that's what I use now. But Guitar Center during Black Friday they have their comparative version. Think of like the Great Value at Walmart. Their version of everything. It's not as good, but it's still a decent quality. You can get those pretty cheap. I think I paid like $35 each for all the other mics that I have. And those are what I use when I'm recording with other people. They're over here or we're mobile or something like that. I just bring those out.
Cool.
Yeah, and those are good mics too. So these mics that we're talking about, they're dynamic mics. You kind of want to stay away from condenser mics unless you know kind of what you're doing with condenser mics. They're a little bit more, I don't want to say professional because they're not necessarily professional style microphones, but you're going to need to have a treated room to be able to use those, because you're going to get sounds from 360 around the microphone. So it's going to bounce off walls. You're going to get some different noises. So unless you have a treated room and know how to treat a room, I would say just go with dynamic. Because that's like I'm speaking directly into the microphone. That's where the audio is going to be going into. That's where the sound is going to.
A lot of people you'll hear talk about like the snowballs and the omnidirectional audio pickup. That could be good if you're in a mobile situation, but if you're in your regular setup, I honestly wouldn't recommend those. That's what I had when I first started. Actually, I had when I first started, I think I was using like the mics that came with like the Xbox at one point.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
This was a long
mic we could find.
This was like a long time ago. This was like 2005. So it didn't take us very long to realize, we're going to move on from that.
Yeah. I mean, I know there's a podcast, my brother and me, they started out with a garage band mic, or not a garage band, rock band mic.
Yeah.
Rock band.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's been some interesting things going on with podcasting, especially in the early days of podcasting. Whenever it comes to, because there's a lot of people that ask about Blue Yetis and the snowballs.
Yep.
They're okay, but I am in the mindset of, and I own a Blue Yeti. Like I bought one early on.
I have a snowball actually.
Yeah. And I know people that have both of them, snowballs and Blue Yetis, and I don't necessarily recommend them just because you can get a little bit better of a microphone for around the same price, if not maybe even a little bit cheaper.
Rule of thumb: if you can find it at Walmart, it's probably not the mic that you want to be choosing for your everyday use.
Fair enough.
Nothing against them.
Avoid
But,
Walmart just in general. So it's good
well, there you
advice.
go.
Good advice for life.
But I know some other stores are getting into it. Like GameStop will have professional mics now, podcasting mics, and you can find stuff at Target and all those type of places as well. So just do your research. Like, find out what you really want to do, what kind of mic you want to get into. Amazon's a great place, like what Jared was saying. You can actually start watching them. You'll see prices change, depend on who sells them. Companies like B&H, places like that, usually will have really good deals too.
B&H is a good resource to have. Guitar Center is a really good one.
Guitar Center, you can actually go in there and play with them and test them out too.
See, that's good to know, because I would think that it would be kind of a learning curve, really. You would have to just use it and then figure it out if you like it or not. And so that's good to know that they'll let you test it out.
Yeah, most of them are going to have a little microphone area, and you'll just go in and you'll push the button that corresponds with the microphone, and they'll have some headsets there, and you'll be able to speak into the mic and listen to it and see if you like the sound, and just kind of get the idea of what the microphone is going to do.
Cool. Wow. Okay.
One thing that I want to kind of go back to is the computer. So what we're using is a website called StreamYard. There's multiple different websites. I know Restream is another one. There's a lot. If you look up, live stream stuff, you'll find some other websites. But Restream and StreamYard are kind of two of the bigger ones right now. This one, you can actually record directly into the website, and it will allow you to download the audio. So you don't necessarily need to go with the soundboard. You don't necessarily need to go with the field recorder, unless like you were wanting to kind of go out and do something out and about. But if you have multiple people showing up, if you have two people and maybe a guest wants to come in on your show at some point, you can go to one of these websites and you can record directly into the website and then download the audio later.
That's awesome.
It's been really great during the pandemic when nobody could really get together.
Right.
It's been really helpful. Even if you're in person, you can always run the audio out into a mixer, out into your one computer, and run it through the audio into StreamYard, and it mixes everything down for you into one audio file there too. Just make sure you have your audio levels correct from the sources. That's very important.
Can you edit from what you download from them? Okay.
Yeah, you would just plug it into your editing software, and then you would just edit just like you would if you were recording from a soundboard.
You can download, it's an MP3 or an MP4 video file. I tend to use the video file because it's a little bit higher quality audio than just a regular MP3, not as condensed, but it's not going to be as good as recording straight from like a mixer, into an audio recording software, which there are many that you don't even have to pay for. I don't know what you use, Jared. I use Audacity.
Yeah.
It's pretty much like the gold free standard, you know what I mean? But I don't edit in Audacity. I just record and render out my MP3 files from there. So that's a whole different story,
So I have a Rodecaster Pro. I record directly onto the Rodecaster Pro using an SD card. Then I take that audio file from that SD card and put it onto my computer. But I use Adobe Audition to edit. And that's kind of one thing that I wanted to talk about too, is the software that you're going to need or that you can use. And
it's funny that you say Adobe. I use Adobe Premiere.
Yeah.
And if I have to change anything in the audio, I'll render it out in Audition, save it, and it fixes it automatically in Premiere. But that's where I'm comfortable doing all my editing,
Yeah.
And which is weird.
Premiere and Audition are they go hand in hand. I mean, if you know one, you pretty much know the other. They have the same hotkeys, basically.
They do. Just the big difference is Adobe Audition is created for audio. Premiere is video editing with some audio built in. It's just,
Right.
I find it easier for the layering of different audio files and things like that in Premiere, and just rendering it out is one file at the end.
One thing about Audition, though, is you're going to have a lot of other effects that you can put onto your channels that you don't have in Premiere. But for podcasting, you're not really going to use that unless you're doing like heavily edited stuff. If you're doing like sound design for like an audio drama or something like that, then you could use it for sure.
That sounds fun, though.
Yeah. I haven't really played with Audacity that much. I know that I tried it whenever I first started, but I was like, you know what? I already have Audition. I'm just going to use Audition. I know it. I'm used to it. I'll just use it. But
that's
I
the
mean,
thing.
it's an
Use what you're
expensive
comfortable
program,
with.
though. So yeah, exactly. Like understand the programs that you're going to be using. Definitely try to, kind of branch out and see if there's other programs that just work better for you. Some people love Audacity, and that's perfectly fine. It's a free program, and it gets you started for sure. Some people, I would recommend editing. So if you don't have a budget and you need something, Audacity is a good way to start.
This is kind of related. So especially in the field I'm going to be in, there's probably going to be some deaf or hard of hearing people that might, want to support as well. So do you guys know a program or any way that we can like easily make a transcript rather than just listening to what we did and type it up?
There are a few programs. I think Descript is one of them. And you can kind of take your audio and plug it into this software, and it will translate, or I guess, what's the word I'm looking for?
Transcribe.
It'll transcribe. There you go. That's what I was looking for. It'll transcribe for you. The problem with that, though, is whenever you're having multiple people on the show, it's not going to indicate like which one is which. It's just
especially if
type
people
it
are
all
talking.
out.
People
Yeah.
talking over, so like I just did over Jared, it's going to have a really hard time. Transcribing is the worst.
Yes.
I used to have to do it a lot when I did interviews and stuff like that. But there's also companies you could pay that will do it for you if you don't want to do it yourself.
Fiverr. Fiverr
Yep.
is a good place to find people who will do it for you. Sometimes relatively cheap, but sometimes you get what you pay for. So just be careful with Fiverr.
Yeah. If you have a special episode you want to know, you want it to be transcribed, it couldn't hurt,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
One thing that I would definitely recommend, especially if it's going to be, for hard of hearing, put your podcast on YouTube. YouTube's going to, I think most of the time, put
Great
up
idea.
Actual subtitles for you automatically. So that might be a really good idea for you. I know that it's very hit and miss. I know. I get it. Fortunately, I am able to hear the podcast, so I don't necessarily need to rely on that. But I know that it is very important for those who can't. Mm-hmm. So YouTube is a great place to put your podcast, regardless.
Mm-hmm. Especially if we use something like this website where we could just download the MP4 file, then we would have both. Like we could separate it. Yeah, good, awesome.
Yeah. So whenever you're going through whichever hosting site you're going to use, I personally use Libsyn. Libsyn allows you to set up a destination to Apple, to Spotify, all these different destinations, and YouTube is one of those destinations. So whenever you go through and create an episode and you post it,
Publish it,
it's going to publish everywhere. So it'll publish to Apple, Spotify, Stitcher, and YouTube. And basically what it does for YouTube, it takes your logo and it creates that as the background, and then it puts the audio on top of that. So it'll be a static image of your logo and then the audio on top.
So real quick, Jared, now you're mentioning this, I actually pulled up an article that I read through today through Buzzsprout. It's the top 10 podcast directories. So these are places you want to make sure whoever you decide to host your show is going to be able to use. So first of all, the most popular one, of course, is Apple Podcast. It was iTunes previously. And what Apple Podcast will do, it will cast out to a bunch of other different directories out there. Want to make sure you're on Spotify now. Spotify is very important.
Yeah, that's what I use. Is
You got that
Spotify.
premium.
Yeah. Google Podcast, Amazon Music, and Audible. People don't really think about that one. Podcast Index, which is the browser only. TuneIn Radio, which I didn't really do much. I never really thought about this, but it's the default podcast player for all Amazon Alexa devices. So it's a great place to have your show at. Stitcher is another one. Pandora, which I didn't even know Pandora was still a thing. But I guess it's still is.
Radio.
Yeah.
iHeartRadio is the next one. And there's another great web-based podcast search engine called Listen Notes. You can type in a subject and it'll show you which podcasts cover those subjects and things like that.
I mean, you can put your podcast on SoundCloud also if you want to. There
a lot
are
of people have
definitely
done
people
that.
who still use that.
And if you're really technically advanced, you could create your own server, your own RSS server, but I've never done that. That's too much for me.
Sure, yeah, we'll do that.
Now, one thing that's gaining some traction is Facebook is apparently going to be hosting podcasts.
Yep.
So
Really?
that's something to look into. Not a lot of people really like Facebook at this point in time. But
I'm trying to move away from Facebook as much as possible, but
yeah, exactly. But I mean, it is a place where listeners are going to eventually go to. So,
and that's where we'll probably do most of our promotion is through Facebook and Instagram and. So.
Now I'm glad you brought up the promotion. Yeah, MySpace.
MySpace.
Let's just go ahead and say Zynga.
Tumblr. Angel Fire.
So whenever you're talking about promotion, I'm glad you brought that up because there's definitely a lot of different ways that you can promote your podcasts. Also, obviously, social media. TikTok is a very big one right now. Definitely get on TikTok. I know that some people don't necessarily like TikTok. I think that it is a great way to actually get the word out for your podcast.
Yeah, if you haven't looked up Jared's dancing on TikTok yet, you need to.
You need to.
Write that down.
It's at not there. So
underscore not there.
Not underscore there. Promotion is something that a lot of people really struggle with. Trying to get the word out for their shows. So some of the best ways that I found to kind of promote your show, obviously paid advertisements work. You don't necessarily have to spend a lot of money on social media ads. You can highly target your fan base. And I can talk to you about that later if you need. But you don't want to just spend money. You want to spend smart money on promoting. You don't want to just throw it out there to a wall and see if it sticks to people. You want people that are interested in that book series you're talking about and the movie you're talking about. Highly targeted ads and promotions will work. Especially like Facebook, create a post for your episode, get everything that you need for a great promotion and boost that to a targeted audience. You'll have better results than just throwing it out there. Utilize Canva. Canva is a great place to make graphics, so you have something to put on your post. Don't ever just post text. Text does not work.
Nope.
You preferably video. If not video, at least some kind of graphic.
For sure.
I love making like canvas and stuff, especially like I work at like a kind of school now, so doing advertisements and stuff like that. I love making posters.
Good. So you're already kind of in that mindset. So that's always a good thing. Some people are very scared of making their own graphics. They're not graphic designers, and I get it. It's a struggle. There are professional graphic designers for a reason. They know exactly how to design something and how to lead the eye in a certain way. So if you don't know how to do it, if you're not a graphic designer, but you still need to go and do social media posts, go look on YouTube. Go look on TikTok. There are so many people out there who are giving free advice. It's a place that you need to utilize.
There's a YouTube for anything.
There's a TikTok for anything
exactly.
too. That's
true.
insane to me.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
every time
it's
I-
all free.
Knowledge is power.
Every time I'm scrolling through Facebook now, it's showing me TikTok videos. I'm like, please stop. Please stop.
I noticed that too, and I tried to hide it.
Yeah, I did that. It'll hide it for a little
Always
while,
gets me.
then it'll come
Yeah.
back.
It'll come back, and they always get me because they know which videos I'm going to look. I'm going to look at the puppy videos. I'm going to look at the dog training videos. I'm going to look at the, people going through drive-throughs and dancing outside their cars and stuff. I'm going to watch those.
Their algorithms are very good. I'll just say that. They're very good.
Especially for all of us.
The data mining.
Data mining.
That's right.
Another way to promote is definitely go on to other podcasts. Join a community of other podcasters. Find people who are in the same niche or a very similar niche.
Yes.
And, just build a relationship. Don't necessarily go in and, ask them, hey, I'm trying to promote myself. I want to be on your show. Try to build a relationship. Maybe do like a episode swap, maybe a promo swap. Definitely, I would say have like a 15 to 30 second promo that you can give people to kind of introduce you and your show to them so that they can just take that and plug it in at the beginning or the end of their show just to introduce you to their audience.
And even take it further, you could always, once you're established a little bit, join a podcast network that has similar shows that are around the same kind of fandom that you're dealing with. And, I'm part of one, and it, you become friends with everybody, go on their show, that you have them on their show, your show, and it just a big podcast frenzy. It's a lot of fun.
I was thinking that was something that actually this leads into a couple of other questions. That was something that we were actually also interested in, is having a regular, like almost turntable of guests, because everybody is a fan of something. And so I didn't want it to be, obviously we'll have our own like core show, but then we'll have like a special show where we bring in a guest. And I wanted that to be like a fairly regular thing. If we did something like that, would there be any kind of like agreement that we have to make with them, or something where they're like, the opinions of this guest is not necessarily the opinions of the hosts, or do we have to do any kind of disclosures or anything like that when we do stuff like that?
I've personally never run into anything like that. What about you, Jared?
So I've had some run-ins with that with the show that I was trying to get up off the ground. And it was a show that had personal stories. So I would have somebody come on, tell their own personal story. And I wanted to make sure that I had a little snippet of them at the beginning of the recording that didn't go into the episode. It was just something that I had audio proof with them saying in their voice, I give Jared the right to tell this story in whichever way he seems fit on the podcast or, on blog, written, verbal form, whatever, in perpetuity. Just something that's not necessarily going to be extremely legally binding, but something that you can at least go and say, hey, look, this is them in their voice saying this thing that they give me the right to do this. You're not necessarily going to run into a lot of issues unless you have more famous people, I don't think.
Yep.
But you always do want to kind of cover yourself whenever you can.
CYA.
Yeah. CYA for sure.
That was something that when we were discussing it, I got really excited about, because, what do you do when you sit around and you talk to your friends? You talk about the last movie that you saw or an album that just came out. And so I think we got really excited about having discussions with more than just us, like opening it up, especially on things that we might not necessarily have a lot of knowledge in. So that's good to know that, it doesn't necessarily have to be super aggressively legal, but
you don't go out and spend money on a lawyer writing up a contract. There's no need for that.
That was something that was a little nerve-wracking when I was thinking about it. I was like, oh gosh, if we just have, if I just have my friend on the street, they're probably going to be fine. But if I get somebody else on the show and then they start talking about something that happened to them when they were younger and then something happens.
And
that's the great thing, though. You can edit all that out.
Yeah.
You can take all that out. If there's a story that you don't feel fits your brand, take it out. There's no reason to have it. Just because they said it doesn't mean you have to use it.
That's right. I want to circle back real quick when we're talking about promotion. I want to talk about building a community. What we're doing here with Hips, what I've done with my show. Facebook groups are really good for it. They're sort of still the wild, wild west of Facebook because they're not. It's not like, so if you post something in there, people that follow you there are going to see it. You can't guarantee that with the regular Facebook page or your page or any of that kind of stuff with the algorithm. So hopefully that's going to stay the same for a long time. But building a community on Facebook, there, groups, Twitter, if you want to use Twitter, Instagram, like you said with TikTok, build a community around your show and get people involved and make them feel a part of it.
Right. Community is a big thing. Cool. So one thing I will say, kind of touching on the Facebook thing, pages aren't as good as groups, but I think that you can definitely utilize both of them. You can link a group to a page.
Yep.
So,
but you can't promote. You can't promote a post in a group. You have to promote only a page post.
Right.
So
it's
important
it's
too.
good to have both because they can link together, and you can utilize both of them in different ways.
Any other questions? What do you got next?
Yeah. What else do you have whenever it comes to the kind of the topic we're talking about right now? Any kind of promotion questions?
I mean, not necessarily for like our promotion, I guess. I don't know. Like the question, like word for word that I have written down is, if ads become a necessity, how does one go about finding sponsors? Because that's something like Lita brought up once, like, you know, maybe eventually if we want to like save up money for more equipment or something, you know, the podcast we listen to have ad breaks. So like,
of course they do.
Yeah, we want to make sure that it fits with the flow of our actual podcast. We don't want, you know, Mary was a single mother found dead in her home or something like that. It's not
if people need to learn about HelloFresh, where else are they going to go to besides the podcast?
HelloFresh, I'd be okay with that. I just wanted to like bring everybody down because they're like,
I've never personally utilized these, but some of the server, your podcast host can help you with this, as well as there's companies that will bring podcast and sponsors together.
Yeah,
you pay them and they'll hook that up for you. Depends on what your level is, what level they are at, all those good things, and you can find a sponsor that way too.
Cool.
There are a lot of websites that will link advertisers and podcasters. So if you do a Google search on, you know, advertising for podcasts, there will be a list of websites that come up. A lot of them are going to require a lot of listens per month. So not everybody has that kind of a listening, but one of the things that you can utilize, and I've done this in the past and I've made some money from it, is affiliate marketing. So you can go and join affiliate programs for different companies. I know Audible is one of them. If you hear an Audible promotion on a podcast, typically that's going to be an affiliate.
Amazon.
Amazon's another one. There's so many of them. There's wine companies and beer companies and other food similar to HelloFresh. That's not.
I think we got Lita at beer when we said beer. She's like, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I've promoted beer and wine, and what other ones were there? Warby Parker has an affiliate program. There's so many affiliate programs out there. Go to sharesell.com, I think it is, and you can find a lot of different affiliate programs. I think Adidas has an affiliate program. I'm sure a lot of these major brands have affiliate programs. So just look up affiliate programs for major brands and you'll be able to find some stuff. Some of them are going to require you to have, you know, different requirements, but you know, you'll be able to find something. So in a lot of these that I'm mentioning, they don't require you to have anything. Nectar mattresses, they have an affiliate program, and that's where I got my mattress from, and it's great.
Oh, nice.
And I was part of an affiliate program with them and sold some mattresses, and it works. So affiliate programs. That's one of the best ways to monetize whenever you don't have like a huge following.
But try to keep it into your wheelhouse too.
Yeah.
You don't want your listeners to be bored or offended by whatever you're shilling. So
Yeah.
try to sort of keep it in like, so hey, like you're talking about a book series on your episode, have them go through your link on Amazon. You can make some money off of it too.
Good point. So,
Yeah.
okay, so that actually leads me to another question then. So if we do have, say, a book or we have a movie or something like that that we can link to Amazon, is there any kind of like, do we just link it and we could say, hey, this is where you can get it? Or should we have a connection with that vendor?
I would definitely create that affiliate program link. So
Okay.
anytime that you're linking anything that you're talking about from Amazon or wherever it is, you'd make a little bit of money off of that if somebody uses your link and purchases that book. You're talking about books a lot. I mean, it sounds like you should do like a book club of the month type of show
Yeah.
and get people to read something beforehand and then do maybe like a live podcast discussion about it, something like
Or
that.
Audible.
We
I
might-
mean,
Audible, yeah.
Audio books are big, so link that for sure.
Yeah, because reading's hard for me.
I think once I slam through the podcast I'm listening to now, then I'll probably start going back to Audible because, man, you can find some good stuff on Amazon for on Audible for free.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
And I mean, you're already utilizing Audible, so
Yeah.
join their affiliate program.
Yep, for sure.
Money for
Yeah.
using something.
Let's see. One thing that I kind of wanted to go over is business cards. There are some people who use business cards still. I used to have business cards for my podcasts. I don't use business cards anymore. What I do use is my link, and you can either do link, LINQ, or Popple. There are some other resources that you can find that are like metal cards or plastic cards that you just tap on phones and it'll bring up the information. So link is the one that I use, and basically I just take my band and I tap it to the back of their phone and all of my information pops up. So they can go through and they can just click the link to our YouTube and it'll bring them directly to that website. So these little wristbands are great.
Now.
So the one, like I said, the one I use is Link, LINQ. Popple is another one that does the same thing. Popple also has an Apple Watch wristband that they use. So there are definitely some different ways, and I'm pretty sure that they both have affiliate programs as well. So,
Am I the only one who remembers Popples from the 80s? You said Popple. I'm like, oh, the little
Probably.
cute,
yeah,
the little
probably.
cute like stuffed animals. Come on, Google that later. Don't make me feel as old as I
So
am.
the Popple that I'm talking about is POPL.
POP.
Okay.
Yeah. But there are others. Those are just the two that come to mind right now. But there are others that you can utilize. Some of them
Yeah.
are just cards, and it acts as a business card. It would be like a credit card that you would keep with you in your wallet, your purse, your pocket, whatever. And then you would just tap it to the back of the phone.
And old school merch works well. Stickers, buttons,
Yeah.
all those type of things with your logo.
Oh my
Give
God.
those out.
We're already kind of talking about getting some stickers together. We need to get Andrew, my husband. We need to get him to send us some test logos, and we'll see if we like any of them, and we'll start making stickers and stuff.
Sticker Mule is a very good place to get stickers. You can also do a bunch of different stuff there. You can do stickers, you can do magnets, you can do like coasters, you can do bags, stuff like that. Vistaprint is another place that you can go and do other different promotional type stuff. You can do like t-shirts on Vistaprint and stuff. You can probably find better
Merch.
quality, but you can get it on like cups and mugs, and so there's a bunch of different places that you can go to. Print on demand stuff is big, and if it acts as promotional, as Carrie was saying, like if you have a magnet or a sticker and you just tell somebody, hey, do you want a sticker? Do you want a magnet? They're going to say yes.
I will say yes.
Yeah.
I don't care what it says on it.
Exactly. People love them. If there's that old saying, if it's free, it's for me. So that's
Right.
that's definitely how most people see stickers and magnets and stuff. So for sure, utilize the Sticker Mule is a great one. They have like a chromatic, reflective holographic sticker that they do.
I have the one you gave me, the hips one, on my
Yeah.
iPad cover.
Oh, nice.
It's really cool.
Nice. I have it on this microphone actually that I'm using.
My
So-
office is covered in stickers and art stickers. I've always wanted something that I would have fan art for.
You need to buy an acoustic guitar or something, and just
Yeah,
put stickers all over it.
stickers all over it. It doesn't even make any kind of good sound anymore because it's the acoustics are so.
We'll make
Built
our
down.
jingle out of it and then nothing
Oh, there you
else. Kind of on the, like, it's veering off a little bit, but since we're going to be talking about so much media, how do you, like, where's that line between, like, yes, my audience understands what I'm doing, but I'm not going to be hit by copyright? Or, like, how do you go about, because we're probably going to be mentioning, like, clips of songs and movies and books, so.
Well, here's where it gets a little wonky there. So if you're talking about it, there's usually not a problem. But if you're playing snippets of a song, I've been doing it for a long time, but I'm very underground with the music that I play, so it's never been a big thing. I wouldn't really get into playing movie clips and things like that.
Yeah.
It's just too problematic. Talk about it, hey, read out the script part that you want to talk about, but be very wary of, especially if you start to get popular and you start to get a lot of listeners and stuff like that. You don't want any of that kind of stuff to come back and haunt you. It's really a lot of places will have automatic software, like you talked about, being on YouTube, that will demonetize or take it down completely if they catch that.
Yeah.
When in doubt, toss it out is a good rule to live by.
Podcasts
If you-
are supposed to be you want to promote what you're into, help promote that movie in whatever way you can, but you need to do it from your own point of view, your own just not, you don't want them to come after you.
Yeah.
And they can.
If you really want to have something specific from a book, or especially if it's like a very unknown book and an unknown author, reach out to them.
Yep.
You can probably find them on a social media somewhere, or just try to look up like contact information, or contact them through their website or something like that. If it's
Reach
a
out, say,
bigger-
hey, I want to do an episode about your book here. Can we talk about it? Can we do things? And then that
They
you
might
never know
even
where
agree to come on the show.
I was about to say, you never know. You never know where that's going to lead you.
Yeah. I actually, there was another show that I was trying to start up, and we were talking specifically about wardrobe departments in major motion pictures. And I was able to email a very well-known Oscar-nominated costume designer, and she was like, I love this show, I want to come on. So, I mean, you never, unless you try, you don't know.
Yeah.
The worst they can
So-
say is no.
Yeah. The worst they can say is no, I don't want to be a part of that, or just not respond to you at all.
And
But
I think you're
at
getting
least you
into
tried.
you're getting into podcast where it's sort of like everybody knows what it is now. It's in the zeitgeist. It's in pop culture. It's embedded now. When I first started, nobody even knew what it was. They thought you had to have an actual iPod to even listen to it.
Yeah.
But I mean, so you're going to have an easier time now finding guests, finding topics that you're going to give you that go ahead. Like you said, I mean, reach out to your favorite author on Twitter and say, hey, I want to invite you on my show to talk about your book. They will most likely say yes.
A lot of them will. You'll be surprised kind of the reaction that you get. I don't know that necessarily Twitter is the best place to do it, because it'll probably, if they're well known, it'll probably get lost in the muck. But
I just see a lot of authors on Twitter. That's why.
if you can find their publisher or their agent or
Their
their
agent,
manager, contact them through their agent and their manager. Some people will come on and respond. Some people won't. It's just really, a luck of the draw at that point. But if you can contact them in a professional way, it'll be a lot easier of a path than I think going through a social media or something like that.
And
Unless
don't get
they're already responding to you and
Yep.
kind of saying, if they're DMing you because of some post you made about their book or something, definitely talk to them at that point. Whenever you can talk to them, definitely ask them if they would be interested.
And don't get offended or discouraged if they do say no or it doesn't happen right away.
Yeah.
Some of them just don't
sometimes-
have the time.
Just keep on doing what you're doing. As long as here's my biggest piece of advice: if you're having fun doing the podcast, your audience is going to have fun, and it's worthwhile. If you're not having fun, it's going to come across.
Yeah.
So just keep on doing what you love doing, and even if you have 5 listeners, you have 5,000, it doesn't matter, as long as you're having fun. But I know you want those 5,000.
stars. We're just looking to, entertain somebody for
There you go.
30 minutes on a Monday night or something.
Yeah.
She's the one that
And-
wants to get famous.
Oh, what?
As long as you're going into it knowing that, you're going to start out with 3, 4, 5 listeners and hopefully progress at some point, then you're going to go into it the right way. If you're going into it thinking, oh, well, automatically I'm going to have thousands of listens at the first episode, that's most likely not going to happen unless it's like some crazy thing that happens for you. And I hope it does. I hope it happens to everybody.
Yeah,
But
me too.
To
Oh,
have,
no, about that.
yeah,
It's
to have
called
more than
it's
100
called-
on your first episode is great.
It's called winning the podcast lottery.
Right?
Exactly.
No kidding.
Don't Emily done me.
So just make sure that you're progressing. Make sure your content is good. Make sure your audio is clean. Edit your podcast. There's a lot of people who don't necessarily edit and they feel like it saves them time. And some people can go and do podcasts and not edit anything and it be perfectly good. Most people can't. So
We have a lot of ums and and
you'll find that. You'll find that for sure. You'll notice that you have your words that you use. Mine is either or so, and you'll try to stop it as much as you can. But a lot of the time, you're going to have to go through and edit those out. But don't necessarily edit out all of them because sometimes it makes it sound like
Natural.
it's not a conversation. But
Yep.
if you leave a couple of them in from time to time, it'll sound natural. And just if it's like a long pause and then an and then another long pause, maybe cut out those pauses
Yeah.
and leave the If it sounds right, just leave it in.
If you can physically see blank space in your audio, cut that out.
Yeah.
That's,
Because you don't want people to go stop and look and what's going on with my
I
There
think
it
it's worse.
There have been times where I've been listening to podcasts and it's just like silence for multiple seconds. And I'm like, did it pause? Did my earbuds turn off?
exactly.
What happened? And then all of a sudden it starts again. And I'm like, oh, okay. They just had a very
It
long,
scares you. You're like, oh.
drawn out pause for no reason.
It was very dramatic with a dramatic
Yeah.
pause.
Yeah, exactly. One thing to definitely talk about is music. If you're going to have music on your podcast, a lot of people use music for intros, outros. We have one on our show. We have an intro song. We have an outro song. I got those from audio.com. It's AUDIIO. You do have to pay for it. It is a licensing website that works with smaller artists, and you can get songs from them, and it'll actually give you a copy of the license agreement whenever you download the audio, and you'll be able to use it. You can use it for podcasts and YouTube and all that stuff.
That's why if you ever wondered why the song you heard on that one YouTube show was now on that podcast, that's why.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, that sounds familiar. They use it on that other show.
If you're just reaching out to places to try to get audio from a very well-known song, it's going to cost you a lot of money to do it.
Yeah. I think if we're talking about music about music, it'll probably be more generalities. We might like quote a line of it or something, but we probably won't be.
We'll cover that ourselves.
Yeah, we won't be rich enough to pay for any kind of licensing like that.
Right. Well, audio.com, like I said, audio.com is a good place to go and get audio. I know that they were doing something, $200 lifetime subscription. So if you pay the $200, you're going to have it for a lifetime. There are other websites that you can look for that have something very similar. I think Epic Sound is one of them, something along those lines. But
Shutter. Don't forget
Google
sites like Shutterstock, YouTube actually has a music depository. You can find music there as well. They're out there.
There's a lot of them out there. Again, Fiverr is a good place to go and try to find some music, get people to create music specifically for you so you know it's yours. Nobody else is going to have it. That's one of the things that you're going to run into with some of these websites that I'm talking about, like Audio and others, is, yeah, you can use that audio and it'll be good, but you also run the risk of somebody else using that audio on their show. So it's not going to be yours. If you go and you get somebody to do your own intro music and outro music, it's going to be yours, unless that person is going and selling it to other people. But typically, if you ask them for custom music or custom sounds for your podcast, it's going to be custom.
We have 3 direct family members that make music, and we have a lot of like musician friends. So
those are great sources.
Yeah, of course, I would want to pay any either like artist for our cover art or musical artist, but I know I would probably trust the individuality of like a friend or family and the individuality.
Yeah. And they'll know you, and they'll be able to know your personality and what you already like. So they'll have a better idea of what needs to go into the project. So
just
that's
don't tell,
definitely
just
a great
don't,
source.
Just don't say you're going to pay them in promotion.
Yeah.
In exposure.
In exposure.
No way. If my friends have something that I'm willing to absorb as content, then I will pay them for it, for sure.
Very cool. You guys have any other questions?
Yeah, any other questions that you might have?
Do I even have a voice for radio?
It doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. Most people.
I wrote it down.
Most people who start podcasting don't like the sound of their own voice.
Oh, I hate it.
I don't like
hated
mine.
my voice for so long, and I started podcasting, and I was like, you know what? I'm just used to it now. Like it takes a little while to really get used to it, but you get used to it.
Okay.
So.
Because I've heard my own voicemail, and I'm like, is this me? I don't know.
Yeah, because the sound of your voice sounds different than it does in your head.
Yeah.
So, and that's why you don't necessarily like your voice, because you're not used to hearing it outside of your head.
Yeah.
So it's just one of those things. You have to get used to it, and the only way to really get used to it is listen.
Yeah.
Just listen to yourself.
Just do it.
Listen while you're editing, for sure.
Yeah, that's basically the best way to get used to your voice. If you're the editor of your show, you're going to get used to your voice.
So that actually is a question that I'm thinking about. So say for instance you have like a 30-minute cast, right? Mm-hmm. So just in general, or like a general idea, how long does it usually take for you to edit down an episode? Like how long should we talk in order for it to be edited down? And then how long does it take for you to edit it?
It's going to at least take you twice as long to edit as it does to record.
Okay.
At bare
or
minimum.
Longer.
Yeah,
or
at
longer,
bare minimum, you can guarantee at least twice. So if it's a 30-minute show, plan for an hour at least, because you're going to be going back and forth a lot, piecing stuff together. And one of the things that I definitely want to talk about in the sense of using like Audition or Premiere or Pro Tools or whatever it is, Audacity, definitely figure out the hotkeys, set up your own custom hotkeys, because those are going to save you so much time.
Yes.
Instead of going and like moving across the screen and clicking the icon and then going to the piece of the audio that you need to trim out, you can just click the timeline, push the hotkey for cut, and then kind of fast forward a little bit, cut again, and then ripple edit. And it'll take those two segments and just cut everything out in between and piece them together.
Yep.
So if you
Very
don't
good
understand
advice.
the editing process, get used to it. YouTube again, TikTok again. Those are two of the bigger ones. YouTube obviously is going to be it's the second biggest search engine on the internet. So YouTube first. If you can't find it there, which I highly doubt you won't be able to find it.
Yeah.
But if you can't, then search TikTok. If you're more comfortable with TikTok, maybe try it first. But YouTube is like I said, the second biggest search engine on the internet.
I video edited stuff for a little bit where I use like a weird version of Sony Vegas Pro and Blender.
Okay.
So of course I didn't get to the point of video editing where I felt super comfortable, but I'm familiar with like using hotkeys, and it's actually a fun experience. So
Some people enjoy it. Some people love it.
I love it.
Yeah. I edit all of my shows. So
I do too.
if I have a
I don't edit all
podcast, you
your
can
shows.
guarantee I'm the editor of said show. Other than this one, we don't edit this live stream at all. But if
Maybe we should.
I think we're good.
Okay. Yeah, I went to school for film video, so editing is like
Same.
really, exactly. It's really close to our hearts, and it's what we enjoy doing. It's being able to create something, be creative, have the ability to actually mold it into the way you want it to be, and then releasing it. It's an amazing feeling. It really is.
And
when
one of the best things about it is you can make your co-host sound completely illogical if you want to. You can edit it in a way that makes them just say whatever you want.
Sometimes they do that themselves.
Yeah, sometimes they do it themselves for sure.
I've heard a couple of them that they go off the rails, and I have to skip until it's done.
That's a very good point. Stay on topic.
Yeah.
Stay on topic
Another
as
big
much as you
thing
can.
I want to say is have your own personality to shine through, because you are two different people. You might have the same opinions about stuff, but you have different personalities. Let people, because sometimes they're not watching you, they're just hearing you. You want people to be able to feel like they're your best friend. Like, oh, I love them. They're my friend. I listen to them every week. It is a little freaky when you meet people they know way more about you and you've never even heard of them before.
Right.
It's a little freaky sometimes, but it's also sort of flattering too. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
One thing that you're going to realize is that the chemistry that you have off show and the chemistry that you have on show is going to be completely different. You're going to kind of understand how your dynamic works on the show. And it's not necessarily going to be the same thing as whenever you're talking with each other on the phone or, just at dinner or whatever. One of the things that I think you definitely need to try to do is get a few practice episodes under your belt.
Yeah.
Because whenever I started, and Carrie, you might have been the same way. Whenever I started, I just recorded the first episode, and that was our first episode, and it was terrible.
My very first episode is lost to the ether, and that's for a reason.
Yeah, for a purpose.
If you guys, do a sample episode, we'll check it out and we'll give you our honest feedback.
Yeah.
I will.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well,
I'm going to charge you
typically-
for it, but I'll do it.
some time, but I mean,
I don't know.
Typically, people say usually about anywhere from 3 to 10 episodes. Try 3 to 10 episodes and see what works, see what doesn't work, see what your dynamic is. Try to find your chemistry, because it's going to be awkward at first. You're not going to necessarily know when to chime in and when not to, and just kind of try to focus on each other's mannerisms whenever they're talking. And then that way you can kind of try to pick up how they're going to progress during the show. So I don't know if that makes any sense or not. But
that's great.
In my head, it makes sense because I've been doing it for so long.
Yep.
You can typically tell after a little while when somebody's going to start saying something or when they're about to finish a sentence and just be completely done with their thought. So just be mindful, kind of pay attention, and just keep the conversation going.
Cool.
Got it.
So
Really good.
the dynamic is going to be different, like I said.
That's probably good because usually when we're talking to each other outside of anything, we're just like, hey.
Yeah, see, and you'll be able to bring a little bit more energy. You'll know what needs more energy, what doesn't. Whenever you're having a conversation with each other on the show, you'll know that you need to bring the energy up a little bit, and whenever you bring the energy up a little bit, it'll bring them up too, and you'll have a better conversation.
And it brings your audience up too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, and
Yes, and
Yes, and is a big one.
you're gonna have to teach me. We're gonna have to probably practice that because I took theater 1
really?
for a half a semester and I hated it. So I quit almost immediately and went to art, just like regular art. So,
But it's going to be fun because it's going to be a little bit of a theatrical play that you put on with the show.
It's theater of the mind.
It is.
Ooh. I can do magic tricks.
All right. So we're a little bit over an hour. Do you guys have any other questions that we can help you out with as of right now?
No, I think you guys really hit the nail on the head on a lot of our questions. So I really appreciate you guys taking the time
Me too.
with us
Yeah,
today.
not a problem.
This has been very, very informative and I'm
Good.
very appreciative.
I hope you guys learned a lot. I hope our listeners and watchers have learned from this as well.
Indeed.
I do have an ebook and an actual self-published book. It is Modern Podcasting. You can find this on Amazon. I'll have the link in the description where you can go directly to it, and it'll be a good starter's guide. It'll have a good starter checklist on, kind of what you need to do, how you need to prep.
See, that's an affiliate link callback.
Yeah, affiliate link. There you go. Also, even though Ming is not here, I think we would be doing him a disservice if we
Definitely.
didn't talk about A Shared Universe. They do so much for podcasters. Go to their website, ashareduniverse.com, and I know that they'll be able to help you out also. If you want somebody to just be able to come in and say, okay, we're going to set this stuff up for you, they have the capability of recording remotely for you, and they'll be able to help you out as much as you would need.
I'd be remiss if we don't talk about, I know we're planning some stuff for November. We might be at a convention, the Bayou City Con. We might be doing some live events there, and we might be having a get together right before that. So stay tuned to all of our social media channels for more information on that.
Yeah, and that's going to be at Coral Sword. For those who don't know, Coral Sword is our official hangout for Houston Indie Podcast Society. It's a great place to go, and you can get coffee and beer and some food and play games. They have a podcast studio, podcast booth area there. If you watched in July for our live show, we actually
was it that long
played.
ago?
It was that long ago.
Oh my
yeah.
God.
Comic Palooza right before it.
That's right.
If you watch that, we played some. What did we play? We played Murder Trivia Party, right?
Yep.
Jackbox.
Yep.
So we will probably play something very similar, either Use Your Words or some other Jackbox game, or maybe even Trivia Murder Party if that's what everybody wants to play. So we're gonna have a good time there. Again, that's Coral Sword, 1313 Telephone Road, I believe is the address.
Correct.
I could be wrong, but yeah,
I believe you're right.
Yeah. Look it up. So
Google it.
Yeah, Google it. Google everything. If we mention anything, Google it probably. But that's pretty much going to do it for this episode. Again, thank you, ladies, for hanging out with us and asking us questions. Hopefully we put you in the right path to get you to be as successful podcasters as possible.
Absolutely.
You can contact us on social media, HIPS HTX. We have a Facebook group. We have a Facebook page. We do have a TikTok. We have Twitter. We have all of them. Instagram. We have it all. So at hipshtx.
Yep.
And you can also email us, hipshtx@gmail.com. I will actually put all that stuff up for you to see just in case you need the visuals. Yeah.
And when you guys get huge and popular, don't forget about us little guys now.
Yeah.
No way, Jose.
Remember where you started from.
Yeah.
We appreciate it, guys. Thank you.
Thank you so
Yeah,
much.
not a problem. Thank you guys again for hanging out, and thank you all for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.